You're live.
Brian's for everybody.
That's hers.
And
they're talking.
We'll find out. Hard thing out.
I don't have nothing.
Hey. Sure. Well, we like to execute it. Oh, yeah.
Who's this?
Just Bill. He's back up. He's tonight. Okay. Well, everybody's all set. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the Town of Andover Board of Finance meeting, September 27th, 2023. We will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everybody. It's the first in-person meeting we've had in over 3 years, I think, right? Like that. It's been a long time, so it's good to see everybody in person. First item on our agenda is public speak. Ladies, anything?
You all know Chris, right?
Thank you. All right. The next item is changes or additions to the agenda. Does anybody have any changes or additions to the agenda?
I have one actually. I think it would be agenda item number 4. Those of you who don't know, Mark or Mike, the auditor's son got injured today. Mark is still in the hospital with his son who had a so they're waiting to for the CAT scans and things to see how the kids do. So either definitely that could be.
Okay, all right, well, thank you for that. That's I thought you definitely with that.
He did say, depending on if you would like, he will send you the presentation now, if you want to review it now, or you can wait. And he said, if you do schedule a special meeting, just tell him and then, he'll make it.
Okay, I like the idea of having the presentation in advance.
Yeah.
That was very well.
Yeah, you can do the stand, as long as you get it.
Yeah.
And then we can figure out whether we do our next meeting or we schedule something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other additions and deletions?
I need to add something.
Yeah.
Just a brief discussion on the capital, the AES capital funds that they asked questions about. Because I'm going to be at the joint meeting of all of the boards, and what that's to be a topic. So I just have a couple of quick questions, not any kind of laws or.
Taking a decision on it, is it something that's proposed?
That's item 5C on the agenda.
Oh, it's just a part of it.
Well, that was the third one.
I think she is. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, good.
All together, yeah, my thing was just a couple things that have come up that I wanted to clarification on, and then, yes.
The only reason I did, we could cover that in board open session.
Right, yeah, either way, that's fine, I can bring it up then, and it could be a lot less formal.
Other changes or additions, deletions? Okay, I would like to make one proposal for an addition under new business. We would add item 6E, which would be discussion of the proposed budget transfers. Would like to make that motion that will we make that change to the agenda? Anybody like the second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. We'll have that as agenda item 16. Hearing no more additions or changes to the agenda, we'll move on to item 5, which is full business. Item 5A is review of the budget action. We have a very tiny print version of possession. On that.
Depending on how you feel, I can make it a little bigger by shutting it off. Portions of the columns on top. So currently, since we're only 2 months in, probably we may not care about the percentage
Yeah.
spent. So I could take what I've been preparing and sending reports to board, I could take on the percentage of budget. From the bottom all the way to the right. I can check that off. That would make it look like quick. Budget or under budget, I think it's still a value in terms of support. If you want to know how much, not things, we can how much is already been spent. But it's just off currently, since we told you it's a year, shutting off the percentage of the budget will allow me to be a little bit bigger. But
Is there one way? Is this a report out of books? Okay, you can't really judge it out, so
well,
I can Excel, I can narrow the columns.
I can't, but then if I make it too small, because we're in the millions. When you go on to the last page, it'll be wide, the last section, so you can read them. Because of the decimals and you know how many places. So as I make it smaller, and also because I close up the column, it also makes the reading smaller. But by taking out the percentage, I can make it bigger. I mean, it could be bigger than it's 75, which is from 10 pages. And so here's another option. If you notice, each of the departments currently has their own department, now all of the different budgeted amounts per department, right? On page 1, you see like the town departments, town administrator, total administrator, treasurer, total treasurer. Those separated items can be collapsed into just one line. This is total treasurer. So here's the total budget for the treasury department. Here is the total amount spent. Not necessarily everything that has been spent on, but I can also collapse that to make it into a one-line report.
I personally like it this way, Cheryl, and I just.
Whatever.
Yeah, I didn't.
What about printing it landscape?
You mean on portrait?
Like this?
Yeah, that's how.
But then you're only going to get, but then you're looking still versus having all of these versus having these. Now, my other potential would be is to put it, if I do it here, you're gonna go more than 5 pages.
Yes, yeah. You know,
Our other option, depending on if you intend to, do you normally receive printed reports or just digital reports?
Digital.
I can say it more.
I can also, when I do the print, I can have it print on label.
That's what I was gonna say.
I can do it, but if you don't have legal prints for your own personal computers,
Yeah.
then you're gonna have issues. How about, I'm going to be back in the town hall again on Monday, I want to experiment with some different types of what the reports could potentially look like. Visually, that will be good, I can send them over, and then you can just say, this is like, this, no, we don't like.
That's a good.
It's hard for me to say, this is how many pages it's gonna look like, without actually doing it, being able to present it, when the other board, you get to choose how we would like it to look. I can give you most of what we might.
Yeah, it's going to depend to some extent whether we're going to continue to meet in person or online.
But I don't think we already mean it's for now, and I didn't buy the same it's something like sign.
But I think you're gonna be prepared and have it, thank you so much, because if I was gonna ask, they're gonna know who's coming, and more information. You probably really won't send it, so I really have you. I'm more visual, so that's why I prefer like, so we have a computer on. Yeah,
Rob,
so,
Rob, did you say two-sided?
Yeah.
Oh, you were talking, okay,
I don't think it is,
yeah.
especially if we're taking very well landscape or something, they have.
right.
Or just apply you all with magnifying glass.
Yeah.
Let's take off.
Good, let's move on to the agenda item, we got a lot on there, it's one too late, so.
So the reports that you have are July through August. For the next time we get reports will be July through September. Okay, that gives you the, remember, although we're in September now, August was the month closed. So when I prepare the reports to you at the beginning of the month, there's no sense me giving you July to September, because now we complete each other.
Correct.
So each of the reports that you receive, the check register is all August. I've taken off the balances. I really don't like publicizing balances, considering the fact that you have a balance, we'll tell you what the balance is. But if the board really wants balances on the check register, I certainly could put that back on. But you have a check register in there with all the information about who pays and check numbers, things of that nature, they just know that. But I certainly can turn that back on. So next month's reports will be July to September. Your balance sheet is based on the period ending August 31st. Okay, that document encumbers everything the town has ever done, in QuickBooks from the beginning of time. So it's all of these, we're running, up until August of 2023. Anything after that is not on that report. It's a time period. And I think the balance sheet is, it's a little bit bigger, you know, that's, but I think that it's not quite as, there's not as many accounts. There's not as many things for you to be able to have to review. And then the check register is there, well, you still have it on as intro. Okay, and subject to revision.
All right, is there a column that says percentage over budget?
That percentage of the budget, just
Percentage.
the budget to actual.
A little bit over 100%.
It's on the budget
Like
tab.
that. So if it goes like 110%, it goes 10% overspent. That's
Oh,
how
I
it
see.
should.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
If you had overspent the budget amount,
Yes,
it would just show it the number over.
it will show a lot, within the bottom. Yes.
is percentage of budget normally something that you put on here? Because I don't remember seeing that last time.
Well,
Well, it's easy to show percent. Okay.
It does?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can show it, I don't have to show it.
No,
And when I present to the board, it always pops up on the report, but I can remove it if that's something that the board does not care to see right now, because it's beginning of the school.
Well, let's see, you come up with people that I like.
And if you want to see how it would look, if you look on page 3 under 4301 town garage, near the top, you'll see the alarm system, we've already spent 980% of the budget. So that's an example of where we're well on the budget already. But I think that one should get passed back to the building maintenance fund. Because that should have been a one-time repair to the public works garage.
Okay.
Or- Yep.
I know.
So there was a little bit of
Yep.
Yeah, we'll,
Mhm.
Okay, does anybody have any specific questions of limited action or is there anything? For Cheryl, we think we should be highlighting. Still early in the year, I know.
So everyone knows what each department head is now getting their own budget every single month. It's automatically emailed out.
Budget and actuals. So that-
Correct. So they already got July, it's already got July to August, but we roll into October, and of course, finish closing out September. They will get the reports and say it's July to September, so everyone knows this is what your budget was. And what you've spent so far, if you have any issues, you need to comment on the email, so if you have any discrepancies, please notify the department right away. Then we are able to stay ahead of any hospital, the issue.
For specific expenses that I think are one to be significantly over, I think we're gonna end up running considerably over on the porta potty accounts. We have a low cost vendor right now, but they are horrendous. They're frankly just not cleaning we're talking them out, but they're not cleaning. So the porta potties are disgusting. And we're gonna have to switch to another vendor, and all the vendors are more expensive. So we will run over on that. I think we're probably gonna go over on pest control at the transfer station too, because we are really struggling to eliminate the rat infestation that's at the transfer station. You know, we thought we had it solved near where the compactors were, and we went to move the tires, in the building, and that building was filled with rats. So we just displaced the blue building, so now we're gonna be trying to chase them out of there too. So those two things I know we're gonna be over, we're gonna be a little over overall on our bill to NECOG for animal control. That is because they, after the budget was over, they came out with their final agreement to the towns, and the percentage was greater than what they initially told the towns to anticipate. So it's not a big, none of those are really significant numbers, but they will be things that at year end will be over, you know, in total in the budget. The other issue we're running into is the senior luncheon program. Is considerably underfunded at this point. The Board of Selectmen has basically decided to let that ride. I made them aware that that was running a pretty significant deficit. Because frankly, their cost per meal has gone up a lot. And before the town funding portion was only about $1,000 of the total budget, and the rest was fundraising. You know, when that worked, when we were paying $5, $6, $7 a meal, and it's not working when we're paying like $14 a meal. We're just not collecting. So that will run, you know, I'm guessing somewhere around 5,000. Shoot.
I heard you say that at the Board of Selectmen meeting too, and my thoughts were, because I attended one when they had the ribbon cutting. And I wonder if it was thought of that maybe keep charging seniors the lower price that's now charged $5 a meal, I think. And maybe anybody else that's not a senior charge them more. I mean, I know you're going to get maybe it's not a big discrepancy, but I was surprised when they charged that little at the door. Because I had handed over more money and expected to just keep it, you know, for them and stuff, just a thought. Maybe very, you know, treat our seniors to the $5 lunch or whatever, and then we can go that. Whether it's a town person or.
Yep.
Like I happen to be there, you know, at least $10. Yeah, just a thought.
Yep, no, that's a reasonable thought.
Mhm.
No, thank you for that.
Any other issues?
No, those are, I mean, right now we're doing pretty well, financially. You know, this year we seem to be tracking the projections pretty well.
Anybody have other questions?
If I could just point out too, if you look at the balance sheet, the second account, the state benefit is up and operational. We have been moving roughly $1 million from the general fund to the state benefit.
You said a million? Did you say $1 million?
We've been $500,000.
Yeah, see that?
It's about, set it at 500,000, so I would think roughly 450,000 every week on MT to the credit account. The interest rate, as of last week was 5.07%. So, I'm anxious to see, we only had $1 million, or we had about $500,000 sitting in there at the end of August. And on $500,000 in 2 days, we got $97 in the next 2 days.
Right.
So I'm anxious now that we'll have close to $2 million by the end, so instead, by the end of September, I'm anxious to see what, interest will be, with that, when we kind of make that statement, but we are continuing to transfer, American as much as we can, from the reserves, where we're going to achieve, we're going to. Just thought I'd point that out, because I know there's a bit of going on this.
Yeah.
Right. And that will net the town somewhere in excess of $100,000 a year. So, for a little bit of hassle, but well worth it for us to do that. We have some big event.
Can I say, really quick question there on the little expenses that are not being over one eyes, transportation at column? What order of that are we talking about? You know, in terms of going over, contingencies.
Yeah, I think all those are available within the department budget. Collectively, you know, that represents probably $8,000 total out of the $3.5 million budget. So, you know, we're in good shape right now. Yeah, fiscally, we're not having issues.
8,000. It's sort of.
Other questions on budget actual? Okay, hearing none, the next item is the check register. We kind of already talked a little bit about that. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay.
Can I ask, I think I thought in the warrant that probably was made able to a payday company is. I'm thinking 10 years,
63,000, 30 years, 63,000.
yeah,
I only was one over to one of those are there.
right. And I wonder, you know, is that, and you know, necessarily there, is that kind of work, we know that there's just certain cycles of pay that involves that, it's like it's in the fund or whatever, and then you just wait for, is that something that's not necessarily from this year's budget, it's in the.
Well, no, that is for this year's budget. So what that is, in the normal cycle of road work, we do kind of 3 things. We hire a company called Abbey Construction. They give us the best day rate for paving group.
Yeah.
And we pay them by the day to shim our roads, but we buy the asphalt directly. So they truck it and they put it down, but we pay ADN directly for the asphalt as opposed to doing it through them, because we have more control doing that. And because we buy it directly, and all the asphalt plants basically have to meet the whatever the state bid spec price is, you know, the only difference we do is in a lot of our shimming, we use what's called virgin asphalt. And virgin asphalt is asphalt that does not have recycled asphalt product in it. We do that because it's a little stickier. So we pay a little bit more than state contract price, which is just for material which has 10 to 20% wrap in it. But it's a very minor adjustment. You know, all the asphalt plants charge basically the same amount. because whoever got the state bid, if they didn't, nobody would use them. So, and it's all based on what the liquid asphalt commodity price is. So there's an escalator between the price of liquid asphalt and what's charged per ton for regular paving asphalt. So that's probably more information you want.
No, but I did like to learn about it. It's exciting, so it was a big.
Right.
Yeah.
So you'll see two big trunks pretty regularly. One is ADN,
Yeah.
who's, we use them because they're fairly close and you want the hottest material delivered to site that you can get. So sometimes we use Haynes material, sometimes we use ADN.
Okay.
They're basically interchangeable. And then you'll see some fairly large bills come through for Abbey Construction. That's the contractor that does the actual paving.
Any other questions on the check register? Okay, I guess we'll move to item 5C, which is the update on the AES.
All right, so as you all know, both the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance made decisions that if the school turned over the cost of the paving job to the upper block, both boards would agree to sub that work out to the contractor that they selected, which was Constantine. As of last Friday, they cut the check to the town. So I received that Friday. They cut a check for $122,000, which was the amount they originally encumbered, but was less than the amount we requested, which is $125,000, but only like a little bit. And there was enough money in that fund to cover the estimated cost from Constantine, so I wasn't too worried about that. So I reached out and then they informed me that since they had paid the town, it was now my project, which that's fine, I can deal with that. So I reached out to the paving contractor, Bill Constantine, and said, hey, give me a time and date. And I got our materials testing lab lined up to do the pavement analysis, and I let our town engineer know we need somebody on site as soon as that was approved. Constantine got back to me Monday and basically said, look, you know, we have too much work already. We can't do the work we have now before the asphalt plant shut down. I'm not going to sign a contract because I don't think I can get it at the end of the day. So, well, I mean, you know, that process took way too long to wind through. You know, what I'm looking at now is what is plan B. The school's concern is that they can't use the lot because that they feel it's too uneven to be safe. Now, I don't think that lot is less even than the lower lot, but their board has decided they're not going to use it until it is addressed. So in the short term, we reached out to Indus, who's a contractor we use for crack sealing and also something called mastic sealing. And we're meeting with them tomorrow on site, and presuming they can do the work in the fall before they shut down for the winter, what we will do is we will address the cracks, hopefully with a product called mastic, which works a little better than standard crack seal. It addresses much wider cracks. And we will create ramps around the basins because they said basins are a trip hazard. Is it a real problem or is it perceived? You know, that's up to the eye of the beholder, but presuming we can get the contractor to do it, we will address that this fall on an interim basis. And then the question comes back to the Board of Finance and the Board of Education. I asked the Board of Ed that in light of the fact that we are not going to be able to pave that this fall, ask them whether they still want to deposit the $122,000 with the town. We're more than happy to put it in the capital fund. But if they choose not to, I mean, we're happy to tear the check up and they can figure out what else to do with it. Because there's some possibility that they can put that money in their 2% on lapse account too. That's up to them, and I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to cash the check, since we were cashing it to do a particular project. If they do go ahead and put the fund, if they do say go ahead and cash it, you know, both boards have already agreed to put it in that capital fund for that project. My suggestion would be we go to RFP sometime this winter for a paving project as soon as the asphalt plant's open, and it can be done in the spring. And that would give us the time to go to a formal RFP, which would satisfy your actual policy, because we all know what we were doing doesn't really conform to our existing policies. So, but that's up to you. You can either decide to go with the original contractor that they've already lined up, or you know, or direct me to go to RFP.
Yeah.
The second question is, what do we do and who
And
pays?
just to be clear, though, that's dependent on what the Board of Ed decides. I think Jerry's called a special meeting to reflect that question and get an answer back on some of how they would like to proceed. So once we have that.
Correct.
I guess we'll pick it up as needed.
Right, and the second question is going to be, if we do the temporary work on the parking lot, who's paying for that?
You can say that's additional funding.
Because that will, you know, I'm guessing that's gonna be an $8,000 or so bill if we bring in a contractor to do the massive seal. We might be able to do some of that less expensively if we have public works do the work and we just use what's called class 12 asphalt, which is basically asphalt that has sand but no rock in it. It's not as strong, but it tapers to a fine point. And we can probably address some of the problems, but I don't know whether we can do it to an extent that they'll feel comfortable to use the parking lot. So those are unknowns. Hopefully I'll have a better estimate on cost. And I suspect it's gonna have to be a decision. You know, by the Board of Selectmen, whether they want to spend money on that or who pays. You know, and that may hinge on some other things, you know, we talk about later.
I had thought this was there some communication or the company just, I thought they had some lined up. I thought we all had a bunch of meetings and said that it was okay. And I knew there was then some stipulations that had to happen, make it happen in the correct way. But did the company just, are they the ones that just decided they didn't have the time yet to do it, even though they had a contract for the 120 or?
Well, so
I mean, I don't
what
know.
the Board of Selectmen stipulated to me was that they agreed that I could sign a contract under two conditions. One, the Board of Finance gave us, or the Board of Education transferred the money to the town. And two, Constantine produced a contract that met the technical requirements of the town. I still have never seen a contract that does that.
I did
So,
listen to that word selection meeting. And
Right.
yeah, follow the process, right, I mean, it was.
right,
Clear. I know she was going into detail and okay, so there was a couple of things that weren't in that.
right,
In
and
the timing that maybe Constantine was.
Right.
available.
so I was still assuming up until Friday that the school was still dealing with Constantine. And would have a final contract for me once they appointed the money. Once they kind of informed me that it was now my project, I reached out to Constantine directly and said, hey, you know, I gave them the technical specs again, I sent them an email and said, hey, I can sign this today, we can give you a permit Monday. But it's gotta include this, you know, and then I followed up Monday and he said, flat out, we can't get to it this year, we would still do it in the spring if you guys still want. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And then I looked and said, okay, given that, what is plan B and what can we do right now to get that lot back open for the winter? Because that's gonna be a pain in the butt. not utilizing it for the rest of the fall and spring until it gets treated. So that's where we're at.
Thank you, yeah, because I know I listened to all the meetings and this, yes, I missed something along the way.
And we're ready to do it in years. Then we're on stipulations, so. And after all the schedule and everything, they just work around. Which is good. I think that's. Is that it was a lifetime one, so we were sorting it
Right.
out. And they're flat out, so and now that's, sorry, we fall, we did it.
Yeah, in truth, the town put off a strip sealing contractor. Because we were ready to go on July 1, and they still hadn't gotten in by September 15th. And we basically said, look, you're too late in the year. The strip seal is much more temperature sensitive. And we punted on that contract for the year, which was big. And it's unfortunate for the town, because we really needed to do it. And it's gonna put us in the hole by not doing, but, you know,
So we're at about 60 degrees, right?
right, I mean, we cannot be putting chip seal down now in these temperatures, it just does not, we don't get a good product.
Any other questions on that? Okay, hearing none, I guess we move on to agenda item 6, new business. 6A is the 2024 Board of Finance meeting schedule. As we do every year, a letter from the town clerk's office letting us know that we need to schedule the regular meetings for the coming year, so it can be taken care of it, so it's not hanging out there at the end of the year. I thought we could probably do that. So obviously, we have to decide tonight, but if everyone thinks that keeping the Wednesday, but the third Wednesday of every month, if that works for everybody, we can just make that decision now and go with it, and then I'll get that list to Carol, and we can move on. I'll have to check that out. Does anybody have any other thoughts, or does that work?
It's basically 2 Wednesdays a week, so I'm always.
Yeah, I think it's consistent with.
Yeah.
I agree with
Does anybody want to make everyone keep the schedule at 20, regular meeting schedule on that same basis?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Keep
so
the schedule on the same Wednesdays.
third Wednesday.
I'll stay up with
So, yeah.
Except for Thanksgiving, Christmas, depending.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know,
Holidays.
it's a good question.
And of course, we always have our special, January, February, March,
Well,
we'll have those in later. Shops and-
Friday,
Yeah. Maybe we want- Like-
We need to talk about second.
so that would be the 17th of January. That would be the 21st of February. That would be the 20th of March. That would be the 17th of April. The 15th of May.
There's moving up in the month, the way the calendar is now.
18th of June.
So that is Juneteenth, which has been designated a state holiday. So you would not be able to meet on the 19th.
We would not be able to meet on that.
Correct. FOI rules. Can't meet on state holiday.
I did not know that.
But we, the fourth Wednesday, are you doing the third? Because it sounds like you're like the 17th.
I said third, but
I feel like this year, it's the fourth.
This year, we have been doing the fourth.
You're right.
Yeah.
You want to amend your motion?
Yeah.
You said this. You want
You said.
Well, I need to hear, yours was broad enough, you didn't need to correct it, so. Okay. So then that would be, no, it's funny, because I already have it in my schedule, I must have been a special meeting, so it'd be the 24th, it would be the 28th of January, 20th of February, 27th of March, here's my calendar. 24th of April, 22nd of May, 23rd 5th of June. 24th of July. 28th of August. 25th of September. 23rd of October. Now, the Thanksgiving one is a question. It would normally be the 27th according to the schedule. That's the day before Thanksgiving. I would propose we probably don't want to hold it that day. So we either move it to week before on a Wednesday and move it earlier in the week. Yeah, so the 20th of November. And if not much is going on, maybe we can cancel that. And then the next in December would be the 25th, which is probably not.
That is all supposed to be.
And suppose we move that one a week earlier, also the 18th of December.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you say 18th of September?
No, 25th.
25th.
So they'll move the 25th to the 18th. December.
Yeah.
Yeah, October is the
Yeah.
23rd. November is the 27th. No, November is the 20th, sorry. November is the 20th,
Thank you.
and December will be the 18th. Works for everyone? Okay, do we have any other further discussion? Did somebody second the motion? 5 seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, hearing none, that passes, thank you. Okay, next item is the 6B, which is the future Board of Finance meeting venue. So I brought this up as a possible board decision and discussion about whether we want to meet in person or whether we would like to go back to meeting virtually. Virtually is certainly a lot more convenient, but after we had that problem last week with the or last month with the basically pornography, it started into the meeting inappropriately. I did not feel comfortable having the meeting virtually, so we had to figure out what we could do more to avoid that. So.
How can we figure it?
It's not clear because it's not like people just join the meeting with passcode and then we're saying things. We had that happen at one time where a bunch of kids got on to a meeting. You can control that through a waiting room type thing, so that you can only let people in once they've kind of embedded and you can get them out again. That's complicated, but it can be done, but that probably would not have prevented this. We don't know how it happened. It wasn't like somebody joined the meeting and was, showing something like a camera, it would stay.
We literally.
Yeah, hack the whole, hack the Zoom meeting, and that was very uncomfortable. So it really wasn't anything we could do about it. If we decide to move forward with virtual meetings, then I would say that we need to come up with a protocol on what we're going to do if that would happen again. Because I don't know that we can just end the meeting. We have to officially never end the meeting. It's a little awkward from a procedural legal standpoint. If we don't actually complete the meeting and follow our agenda. So I think that what we would have to do is come up with some kind of protocol that we either start a new meeting, but then we have a, I don't know if it's probably have to announce that one, or if we meet in person the next week, or to continue the meeting, so there's something like that would have to be decided.
I mean, when we had that, we all basically we all like sat and we joined and it worked.
I think we should come up with a procedure like you said.
I mean, it worked.
Right.
So we ultimately all, it wasn't planned, but we all came up with the idea of no matter we had rejoined and it seemed to work okay. We were looking to complete our meeting. With a few chuckles, but we got through it. So if we do by Zoom, I mean, I guess the question is how common do you think this problem is going to be? That was the first time I run into it. I've never seen that before. How popular the end of the Board of Finance is.
I think it was random. I'm just a little worried because one of the.
Oh, that's the recommendation. I don't know.
We've had,
One of the slot in the meeting, we were right.
yeah, we've had 5 or 6 town meetings acting on forward, but not like that.
But that's not the people it's moving in, all I have to do is start setting them down.
Yeah, so that was different in that this was really a root level hack. Because whoever was doing it was not a participant at the meeting, they never showed up on the list of participants. So that was somebody in the Zoom system, and there's no way to shut out somebody who's got whatever permissions that requires,
So that was, that's the first time that.
yeah, so.
I think of all the meetings that are on board, my thought, having been at all the meetings we've had so far, is, and I've never missed a meeting, it's just that attendance sometimes can be an issue, and I just think how, new people travel. Bill's away on business, not to call anybody out, I just think having Zoom meetings are just so much more convenient. I do appreciate tonight, it is interesting to me to be in person, and I think we'll probably get through it quicker, because we're all here. Once we're out, but we're coming up to the winter, we're coming up when people travel. And I've noticed there's not always everybody is able to make it, and I just think it's easier to have a forum. So.
The other thought I would add is it's possible that we could say, look, your average finance meeting, we can say. But maybe we decided that like things like the budget hearing, need to be in person, or, just in case kind of thing, like, but something that we expect to be heavily attended. Something that we're trying to get across the public that's important.
Yeah, and we could decide, meeting what the forum for the substitute.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that's a big lobby today, that everything is so much meetings in person. I'm not against that, I don't know how to that call, but it's.
Well, I think it tends to actually engender more public participation.
Yeah, a lot of people.
That's not being one.
Are you talking about Zoom meetings or in-person meetings? Okay, because when we used to have in-person meetings, well, we had 15, 20 people just about every time we had a meeting.
Yeah, it must have been a lot.
Well, I don't know, when I first started going, the old town hall, the parking lot would be full and you wouldn't be able to find a seat for the town, for the board of finance. That must have been when I first started. When it was at the old town hall, or the old fire department.
Okay.
You couldn't find a parking spot. I'm dating myself.
I used to show it up we definitely have budget hearings where we were presenting the preliminary budget and we have a forward. That is.
Not everything.
The other option that would be possible, that would increase security would be to do a hybrid meeting and say, okay, we're gonna meet in person, but let us know if you can't make it. And we can have 1 or 2 people remote if we have to. And just don't share the remote contact information, because the problem is that if we announce them as, Zoom or hybrid meetings, we have an obligation to put that out on the world. And we cannot prevent somebody from logging in until they cause an actual problem.
I would like to have a procedure, if something like that happens, and we just like shut down immediately, give it a certain amount of time and then zoom back and.
One class, or we less.
I think shot.
How else? If you're the person dialing in. And everybody else is here, how the odds did it work out?
Well, come back in tomorrow, we'll give you the login and you can watch a recording of tonight's meeting and you can decide how well it works. We've done a bunch of other meetings. I attend probably 2 hybrid meetings a week. Well, okay, probably with Prague. We do. I'm comfortable with it because I do a lot of meetings this way. But that doesn't mean you all like it and not everyone does. So it's really your
obviously that's what I mean.
Yeah, I think the only thing is, when we say hybrid meeting, we gain nothing if
Right.
we do it the way they're proposing, which is that we only hand that out to people who specifically have challenges getting to the town. You know, I'm not a huge fan of that. I just think it complicates things significantly.
Is this meeting being recorded?
Yeah.
Oh, it is, is that?
Yeah,
what it is?
that's the word. Yeah, we're recording it on Zoom,
Okay,
so.
I was gonna say.
Like, maybe the rest of our meetings.
So yeah, I don't feel like we have to make a determination.
I would at least like to guide this or if there's, if 3/4 of the board really wants to go back to virtual meetings. And we come up with a protocol, then we'd like some guidance for the next meeting, so, I mean, I'll make a decision, but, you know, my decision is gonna be there on the side of the file. I'll tell you that, right now, just because it's my decision, I'm gonna be able to care.
Oh, I didn't know, I thought we all had a vote, so it's.
Well, that's what I'm proposing,
Okay.
if we don't decide, if it's
Yeah.
gonna be my decision.
No,
I'd like for us to decide, by right, to decide that, but I don't wanna, I think it should be a board decision, that's why I'm asking. Guy.
And I know we have an election coming up, right? Lydia, you're not running again? I haven't seen Andover candidates too much, you know, in the River East or whatever, I've seen a lot of other candidates, you know, getting their stuff out there.
Well, one of the reasons I am leaving is because I hate Zoom. I'd rather.
Or,
I hate Zoom. It's been 3 years. Forget it. I'm done.
yeah,
I was basically done June 31st in my mind. And then they changed the election.
and I,
Without asking you about that, but. All right, so, you know, I think if somebody wants to make a motion, you know, I think that's fine, I don't know that we've got some clarity. Louise, how do you feel about it?
I make a motion to continue doing it this way in person.
The person, okay? Anybody want to second it?
At least for now,
Second or second.
unless COVID starts happening.
We can always change it.
I'll second it because I am a member.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, my personal inclination leans slightly the other way, not the biggest, but if you guys want to meet in person. Either one, there is a certain ease of it for me to just hop on that. I like that, but, you know, either way, that's fine. So I'm not gonna argue with the other way, I just state that my own personal preference slightly different. And if it hadn't been that, I don't know that it'd be necessarily here, but.
They changed that along the way, right?
It's not.
It's like,
really-
yeah, it's really
I
late.
mean, if you want to federal issue where like, people are driving out of business or something, you don't need.
we have a lot of, we have a lot of.
And you need to do that.
Yes, so, I mean, as a person that is at the meeting, I know we have a lot of people that miss meetings, I understand people have busy schedules. So I'm way the other way, so that more people can come, because I feel like we're always refreshing each other. And sorry, Rob, it's not personal, and that's why I can think virtual, more people can attend every meeting and be more, the strength can be in the continuation rather than catching up. And that's my only thought, because I can come, it's summer, my own.
Yeah.
Whatever, I.
I think maybe you should call a question and vote.
Yeah, sure. So just to be clear, the motion would be that we do it this way, unless we
You in person, I'm not doing something. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
I oppose for May, I don't know.
I'm staying because I feel so strongly about
I mean, honestly, some meetings are really fun. Well, that's the chance that, it depends on what the meeting's about.
it. Oh,
Yeah, probably interest.
I don't know.
yeah.
Oh, but we can still, we can be fine.
So what do you-
So where we are, Brian, voting to begin in person?
Yes.
Okay. And you're.
I was
I'm gonna. But it would result in, that you-
So you just vote yes. I don't want to know about this.
No, we got it.
So we're in,
The motion passes, as I understand it, 3-1 to 2%.
Okay, great.
Okay, and on that note, I won't be here in October, I'll be in California.
Okay.
Well, so.
We're not doing that. We're, oh,
And again, we can always reevaluate.
no,
Yeah.
I think we got it. All right, let's move on.
Then eventually we have to switch, like if we talk over something and we go, we change it.
Sure, yeah, I think so. I mean, that would be fine.
Okay.
We, I really think ideally we want to have it, you know, in the public, you know, on the.
Yeah.
In the announcement early, if we can, we don't want to change it.
Sure, and this is one of those things that Mauricio comes out of nowhere, you want to be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next agenda item is 16 is the Board of Finance Chair position policy and procedure. So I brought this up, as you remember last year, we talked about we didn't really have a good policy protocol for determining, you know, who would be in the chair position, who would be in the, you know, co-chair position. And then how we would rotate that. You know, we decided it was a good idea that we should revisit that every once in a while, but I don't think we really set a solid policy or protocol around that. So what I would propose, first of all, is that we need a protocol or policy around it. And second of all, what I would suggest is that we make it either a 1 or 2 year term. And I don't feel strongly about whichever, but it is something you kind of learn as you go along, so maybe 2 years makes sense. And I would also suggest that we do the vote in December, with the December or January meeting. Because that would be the closest meeting for the first meeting following the general election. Since the election's now changed in November, to me, it makes sense to do it in the subsequent meetings.
So also makes the change right before the budget.
Exactly.
Just kind of.
Yeah.
It's that,
Yeah,
it's not the little, it's nothing, it's not. For all bunch of stuff, I think it's all, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I do think 2 years makes some sense. But it doesn't really.
Yeah, I don't, it's not the only thing, this is just like the venue, we could, if somebody thought we want to change it 1 year, we can make it. Somebody different than me, but I think, for the purposes of efficiency, you know, either 1 year and 2 years makes sense, you know, again, I'm not for the TV, but I didn't think that makes. Or works.
I think that too.
Do we want to motion on that then? To vote on? Alright, and then I'll move that we do exactly that with the 2 year option. 2 year term. For the chair, deciding on December from the meeting. What's it?
I'll second that. I agree. I think 2 years works.
Can I make a suggestion that we do the same thing with the vice chair?
Well, that's, I had included
Oh.
that was my intention.
From the, yes,
Yeah.
we'll listen to.
Should it be January? Because then if you have, no, then you wouldn't want a new person. I was gonna say the elections, they wouldn't start till January 1st. The new people,
Yeah.
but then you'd want somebody who's already on the board.
You do want the new people in there.
Oh, is it January when they?
The office, can start and take off.
Is that correct?
I thought they took off. I mean, they're,
But they actually, so that one where I can't tell you off the top of my head. Because it's a weirdness in our election schedule, some offices take place as of November 20th, others are January 1st, but I don't know which. That's
The town website says, that the term expires November 20.
Then for your board, November 20th is the transition day. So, yeah, December.
Yeah. but-
It's sad, but we should have a little.
Yeah.
Then we should get that.
Yeah, because they still have to be sworn in and things, they probably, you don't have a meeting on the 20th, if it expires on the 20th, I assume that's exclusive. So,
And they gotta get that.
okay. So to restate your motion, as I understand it, you're moving that the board adopt a policy that we will vote on the chair and vice chair positions every 2 years, effective the December meeting.
Yep.
And that the first of these, votes will take place this year, this calendar year. 2020.
Correct. The only question I had is, we did a vote, I don't know how if this lines up with all the terms, but if you elect a chair for some reason who doesn't get elected. We'd have, just, the procedure on that would be what we just address that as it comes up.
I think you would generally, vote on the chair effective next week.
Okay.
That would probably be the motion I would propose.
That means that, I just want to throw it out there, it's just occurred. It's very well staggered, and, yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No, motion passes, thank you very much. Okay, the next one is a discussion of the discussion of discrepancies with the capital funding. So. Eric, I don't know if you introduce it, Cheryl, or
I think this is gonna be mostly a discussion led by Cheryl. I'm obviously aware of the issue, but it's kind of her show to talk this through. And we have a series of options, and you probably want to make a decision on how we proceed, because we're gonna need that. And you can talk through what the options are, but Cheryl will give you the overview again. Okay.
Okay, so I, today for you, you have some budget to action reports specifically on the roads and road improvement. County roads is classified as non-major revenue parts. And the road improvement is classified in capital reserve funds. County road money comes strictly from the state of Connecticut. Road money comes through the big put items of the year. Road money comes strictly from the town to the town level. But you cannot be commingled, it might be commingled state monies with town monies, so that's why there are two. Okay, the issue that we have run into is that currently, when you go to the first page shows unaudited financial statements July through August 23rd, and I'll give you some criteria for current. Then you've got the balance sheet, put that over. When you go to the next one, the unaudited financial statement, county roads July 22 to June of 23. Do we all see that? Yeah. That fund has been overspent by $192,000. How that transpired was that inaccurate reports were provided to Public Works from the finance department prior to my committee. So they went and did their work. All monies went to town roads based on the information that they received, when it was inaccurate. They thought they had 148,000 when in essence they only had 19,000. So how long ago for that particular is 22, 23, current, this is all right, no, I understand, but
They have a lot of other stuff.
So they were given the wrong numbers.
Correct.
As of
at the beginning,
July 1,
2022.
2022, and we based the budget off of that. Off of the unaudited numbers. Basically, what happened is nobody ever went back into the software and subtracted the audited numbers. So that problem actually was from a year before that.
Well, that's what I was getting at, that it was kind of carry on.
It's right, this 192, or as you can see, yeah, here, they received $186,082 from the state. We get that twice a year. When the state approves the budget, the state budget normally, and then put it in December, sometime in January. We get two allotments. they spent $378,000 and change. When you go to your next page, and you'll see it's the balance sheet, okay? They only had, and you go down at the restricted fund balance, they only had 19,000 and change. Therefore, that particular fund is overspent by 172,000. Options and order to fix it, it's all for the 22-23 fiscal year. Correct, yeah, all right. So, several different options. If you go back to that first set of pages that I gave you, the first one was the revenue. We have already received this year, 23-24 fiscal year, $92,939.39. The first set of received non-audited fund activity July through August of 23. We've already received 92,000. I could take 92,000, roughly will change 90,000, whichever the board decides. Of that 172, put it as a prepaid expense in the 22-23 fiscal year. Then on July 1st of 2023, take it out of prepaid and reduce the funding that we just currently received. That will take care of roughly $90,000 of the overage, but it also means that the town aid road now only has roughly 92,000 to be spent in December or January. That's one option. Okay, if we do that, we still have a shortfall. And then my suggestion would be that the remaining shortfall will be transferred to road improvements. Road improvements is solid. So if you continue to go on your report, I know there's a lot, but they're not the same fund. I think it'll be more than one. In the second to the last page, road improvements for July through June 2022. They spent 547,000. They got 330,000 in. You all see that?
Yeah.
So that says currently that they overspent 217. They did not.
So you're stepping ahead of me.
Go to the balance sheet. Okay, then you have a balance sheet that due at 23. Okay,
Yep.
they have $230,000 of carryover restricted fund. So that's the expenditure of the 217 reduces the 230. So we had roughly $12,000 left at the end of June of 2023 for road improvements. So if we did the plan, take the county roads from 23-24, have the small, the $70,000+ of overage in county roads, we would transfer it to the road. I would also move that as a prepaid, because 410,000 is transferred in on July 1st of 2023 to the town budget. Correct. It would reduce then the amount of money that potentially could be spent in the 23-24 fiscal year. That's one option. Our other option is you have several smaller funds within the off budget, whether it's in the capital reserve fund or whether it is in the non-redesigning learning fund that we have talked about repeatedly about closing. And those funds, one in yellow is the library expansion. That's correct there?
Correct.
The library expansion, the library. The library.
So the good news about this
Yeah.
is that the money was well spent.
For the purpose it was intended, the town budget.
Right. I mean, we basically spent Yeah, you could look at us, just doing your plan to be anticipated. I'm not saying it doesn't make us look like idiots, it clearly does.
The library reserve fund, that can be closed, it's not in any of your rates. I was getting ready for that. It's roughly $183,000 in the library reserve fund. That is not being utilized, is not being utilized, is not going to be utilized for the library. The reserve fund is for building the library. These are funds that can be released in the $183,000 general fund, increased fund balance, or can be allocated to a different fund. County building.
183.
100, yeah, well, it's 183,000 and a little bit.
We need to know what we have a full one, we got one, right?
Yeah, but what we could do is we could take that little bit of 12,000
But
and move to road.
I get it. What I'm saying is the 183, it truly is just sitting there, we don't have a purpose for it, again, that's like 90% of the way.
Except Eric did have a purpose for it.
But,
So,
what's the purpose?
let's go back and talk about that a little bit. So the Board of Finance motioned to close that account and return that to the general fund like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I never got,
Oh, that's.
you know, the previous treasurers to actually close the fund and move the money to the general fund. So, but you certainly can, but we always intended, we've known for a bunch of years that we're not using that fund. And that could be reassigned to other priorities or rolled back into the general fund. The reason why it never got caught for not rolling back into the year of the general fund is the year that that would have occurred, we ran enough of a surplus that even though we budgeted to put that money back into the general fund in that year, we ran enough of a surplus that didn't run negative and
Didn't notice.
not that we didn't notice it, but that it didn't cause us an audit problem. You know, so that money is very definitely available. The second pool of money that would be available, that we should transfer again also, is the money that is assigned to the Pines Farm Bridge Fund. Because that project was completed in 2017. All the final paperwork for the closeout has been with the state for at least 18 months at this point. The problem is the state is running so far behind them closing out bridge projects that, you know, having a bridge that should have been closed out 6 years ago and hasn't been is kind of hard for the course with the state right now. But I do not see any. Okay, so it's 105,000 still in that fund. There, to my knowledge, there is no potential that we're going to need to expend any of that money. So that is another source that could be repurposed to cover this, if that was the choice. So our options are basically to essentially short public works for this fiscal year. And just basically say, okay, well, you thought you had 410,000 we're putting into it, we're actually putting in 200,000.
But work did get completed, so we're not really sure exactly. Right.
So, right, but I'm saying in this fiscal year, right, so that's option number one is to just basically say, okay, this year we'll consider a prepay for work we did last year. The second thing is augmented funds with one of the capital funds that we know we were gonna repurpose to other things. Now, I will tell you that it had been my intention to recommend that the library fund get repurposed to our culvert fund. Because the reality is we got around $350,000 in our culvert fund. We know sometime in about 18 months, we're gonna be looking at a bill probably around $700,000. That would make up a significant chunk of the shortfall. So that's why we're giving you what kind of the options are to address this. The other option is to go to a town meeting, say mea culpa, and ask for an additional appropriation to cover public works. So those are kind of the three things that could happen. But you're the Board of Finance, and ultimately, it's your choice to decide how you want to proceed. We're just here to give you options.
I have a question. Are we under any obligation to tell the town? The Google, basically,
Well, it's a public meeting.
I know, but do we have to do a public meeting? to
Well,
do this?
no, this is a public meeting, so this is a public record.
Oh,
Okay. That, we don't need to have this.
all right.
I just want to say the library was under the impression that money years ago got put into a building fund. Maintenance building fund, so the library doesn't feel bad about saying, I don't know, our roof is leaking, this is because they figure the money's in the building fund and it was
Right.
for them anyways.
And it wasn't all put into the building fund. The building fund was initialized with about $120,000 on the town. It just, for whatever reason, the treasurer at the time never actually closed out that account and got rid of it, even though, you know, we've talked about it for years.
Yeah, the library thought it was fine.
Right. No, it's still sitting there.
You guys asked to close the meeting. Check the board, if they really asked to close in.
Eat that, and you know, do we kind of put ourselves on a little behind the eight ball when we look to the culverts coming up, or a bit of both? Seems to me to be classic. If we got like 288-ish between those two funds, the bridge fund that will hopefully be closed out, and the library. We need 192 to plug this 170.
Had like. Library one is sufficient to handle that, and the remaining funds that were left, the ones I mean, I have some. I have some interesting things that I have to audit, but we could you could close out the library fund, transfer sufficient monies to make the county roads solvent for 22-23, and the remaining 10,000 so would be transferred to bridge boards. It would certainly not be the amount of money that we were hoping to be able to build up for the project. But that might be your easiest, and that would then take away any additional funds potentially from DPW for the future work. The town aid road money, roughly 184,000, will be there in total, 22-23, and the 410,000 would be there in total for the 23-24, both on 23-21, excuse me.
My thought is, like you said, deal with it the cleanest way at the time. You found this problem now, you could fix it, and then when the culvert thing comes up, then we have to go to it, because there's no guarantee of when that time will be. Like, always looking towards the future, we have to go to the town meeting for more funding at some point.
When we get what the problems, we're going to have to assume that we have to put out line, but they won't be able to. When within the budget process, we're going to have to put a line amount in within the normal budget cycle for bridge and culverts.
Right.
To bring that
We can do that. That part is.
Yeah, that will be.
Now, interesting income that we have not received previously. We may not have all of the interest income that we were hoping to get, yes, because of what we were previous. But we'll have some money that needs to go towards bridge and culvert. Right. Then we potentially have some more, and we have, Eric said, like 18 months, that's a whole another year. Right. That's actually, did know revenue from interest income that we transferred to the culvert up and above what we're anticipating.
Sure, good question, Aaron, just going back, thinking about something you said earlier in the meeting, stealing contract, or anything with that off. Is what, if any is the budgetary impact on that, so we're not gonna do student sales. Late in the fall, we're thinking of taking that to spring, summer of next year.
Correct.
And does that, we're still hoping to accomplish that within that fiscal year, right? Cause that's the question, we have explored and done other things, right, and what, 170.
Right. Chip sealing was $155,000.
Okay,
So which we did not do this fall.
right,
Now, that, the ideal time to do that is mid-June, between mid-June and August first.
like,
Right, which has always been the problem. So what,
yeah,
ordinarily, what we do is prior to July 1, we shim all the roads and we take all the money we already have, because that takes a month to 6 weeks to address all the roads. And then, so July 1, we are ready to go, and we tell the chip seal contractor, we want you in as soon as we can after July 1. And frankly, I'm incredibly pissed that they put us off this year. However, it's been a horrific year for road work across the board because of the weather. And the other complicating factor is both Vermont and New York State got hammered.
yeah,
And a lot of the contractors which we use, we have a company called Gorman. I mean, when I was up in Vermont, there was a whole Gorman, road trains up there working on Vermont roads, trying to get them back. So that's part of it.
Arnold, just so you know, your tax bills and you will see road improvements so far for July through July through September. So far, they've spent $60,000 in the 2024 year on their 410. So they still have, if we don't touch it, meaning from the road, they still currently have 249,000 just in the 23-24 budget year that can be utilized. If we don't use any of that money to make town meeting more solid in 2022.
I was just thinking, if we, based on the timing, and just, when, I know, the last thing I want to do is short our road in a time, right? But if we were already in the certain things that are out of control, we're keeping things back. And if it leaked over into the next fiscal year, then we could deal with it, part of this and everything. But maybe that's too complicated, maybe the right answer is to plug the hole. As irritating as suddenly having $172,000, missing is. Plug it and deal with colors when we get there. In the end, I come to the same issue, but it's.
Oh, yeah, and none of you knew that you had $180,000 sitting in the library fund.
Yeah.
It's like a good balance.
Right. I don't remember the last time we talked about.
It's not like we have to go up for an additional appropriation.
Right.
So I tried to be half full, the money was spent on the road. Everybody has the money, we got what to spend. We do have monies and other funds that we can utilize to make those really expensive solid without impacting the citizens currently. With an additional appropriation, next budget cycle, we will have to do something about their goals.
Option A is basically pay, plug the hole from library fund, the remaining balance from library fund, and what's in the bridge fund, which should come to about 115, and transfer that to culverts.
Yeah.
And we're done.
Some choose, yes.
That would be option A.
The rest would be, taking some of the property roads and reducing road improvements on the return.
Do I have to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to transfer that money that we just spoke about, that from the library reserve fund.
Transfer $178,504.98.
Right.
Town and roads.
Town and roads. Yep. And then, like, putting these together.
And then the very remaining
Reserve fund, coupled with the money from the Times Farm Bridge Fund. Yes.
two bridges in public.
Into the bridge.
I'll second.
Mhm.
Everybody understand that? Okay. Do we have any further discussion?
I have to do this again.
Yeah, well, I think Cheryl made the point earlier that one of the things that each department is receiving actual expenditures along with their allocated budgets, so that and we have accurate information so that there will not be, or they know that there should not be a little means by which anybody would make this mistake again.
I've been making people very happy because we have refused, my department person, I refused to provide reports until I've done my final reviews and made sure that everything agrees a first off for the budget report, and B, that all the information for expenditures in the general fund are being reported properly in the other funds. The sports other fund. So until I'm sure that I'm good, and I put my little blessing on it, nobody's getting reports, and I have, these people very unhappy.
Yeah,
I
I
don't want to repeat this.
personally know that this issue gives me a little bit of angst because we have spent what the citizens of the town voted on in the budget. And that's,
Yeah.
so we do this, we're actually extending that expenditure without necessarily explicit authorization.
Yeah,
It's not a huge amount, but it's not insignificant either, and I think that, I'm willing to vote on this, vote for this motion. Doesn't make me wholly comfortable, but I do think that it's in the best interest of the town to move forward and get this field up. The town can always decide that it's budget cycle to reduce the town fee. We just have to get that time, there's enough angst over this level of spending, it's 172,000, it's not chump change, but it's also not, the majority of the budget.
right, and I remember, we did kick the funding up this year, we were at what, 350, I think, in the past. And, we could always just say, that we need to return to 350. And let it, about 300, whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't taste great going down, this is what was actually.
What the town
approved. On the same, flip side to it, and the way I would sort of pick my team and vote for it is that. We have a lot of road work to do, and I know that people also want their roads to be
Not critical.
dealt with. Right, this is, we didn't,
It's not,
this is not, right, we don't need gold bars, so, I'm in.
further discussion? Questions, comments? Okay, I'll call for a vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, motion passed, 600, thank you. Thank you. One more agenda item, the next item is, 6D, which is the item we added, discuss the third recommended transfer.
Oh, right, so this is different than now. Yeah.
Cheryl, we're gonna. Okay, my favorite stuff.
The final set of transfers that are going to be. So you have the transfers, and then you also have the actual July and see the 1.2, you can see where the differences. You give me in the normal packet, that's the big second that I gave.
Thank you, I didn't get that at least.
So I'm gonna go ahead and transfer, if it doesn't want.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
You do it?
Okay.
And the original budget transfer. We needed some additional ones, and I need notifications on why. Some items even after the come to the board and ask for line item transfers. Why, I instituted that all those presented to the treasurer's office no later than August 15th. For the 22-23 fiscal year, and if anything came in after that date, it would automatically go into 23-24 because I need to be able, at some point, I have to close in order to prepare the financial statements for the audit. So these things came in within the allowable time period. They were all marked correctly, that they were applicable to the period ending June 30th of 2023. We double checked, right, and it's something to be really once I double checked, that's where they were. And when I went for the first one, contract maintenance, we had to. And, when I came the first time, it still came in later. So right now, when I'm not doing cents, I just round it up to the nearest dollar. Okay, instead of 80 cents. And where I could, if I could take it from that department, I did. But in some cases, I did not take it specifically from the department. And you'll see down, so that one was for printing. The building shared, we had some additional bills that we received because we shared that person. Accrued payroll, one of the issues that, was not budgeted for, was that the 22-23 there was a 27 time period pay, not a 26, it happens on leap years and other things like that. Instead of budgeting for 27 pays, it was budgeted for 26. So, once I brought it in, so the accrual, although the payroll happens in July 5th was the day that we did our payroll, it was applicable for the full 2 weeks in June. There's no big, the auditors might let you do a pass on a couple of days, but they're not gonna let you do a pass in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's right.
So when I say approve the payroll, when that's the issues there. We received some additional billing, we got some additional billing from the state. The alarm system, we went over there too. Again, the telephone, that just, utilities are up. For the town garage, we just had a little bit for maintenance, or reduce their electricity, then where I can do it within this department I did. We have some consulting fees, a little bit there, mobile phone, $50. Public Works, we're taking money from their diesel. Then we have a transfer station, those amounts there, billing received. Recycling, we have a little bit, ground care, we had some. Fire marshal. Senior citizen and programs, $800, I'm moving to fund some of their trips. The transportation dispatch, that's the person that takes care of that. I'm transferring that from their field diagram. Outside facilities, I took it then for programs. Legal, I took it from training. And then the offset is the clerk wages. So when you add up all of the things that they need to do additional appropriations for, $29,528.50. I could take from the department I did. When I could not, I took it from departments that I knew was done and over and closed. So the first one was 15,000 from the assistant treasurer clerk wages, and then the rest I took from contingency to balance it out.
And that would be what contingency,
I'm sorry.
how much did that need?
$29,528.50.
Oh, that's the remaining.
That's the amount of money to the general rates. That's how much I have to transfer between line items.
No, yeah, no, if we are taking $10,500, maybe,
Do we have a balance?
what's the net, what's not.
We're not making anything to fund balance, it's transferring in between all the different departments that were either overspent or underspent. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
So I think you like questions. Maybe
Rob is asking is year over year, last year, understanding that it's unaudited.
Yeah.
You know, we spent less than we took in as a town, right? The net balance is somewhere around, what, around 240,000, something in that range.
Depends on what happens to the board education. And it also will have to depend on what happens. My final numbers won't be until I finish balancing the tax revenues. But yes, we are not in the red, we did not overspend.
Right.
22-23's budgets.
Okay.
We should be adding some funds to undesignated fund balance. But I think this particular one, I can't tell you exactly what it's going to be. Well, because part of, we don't know when the school may return.
Right.
The school may not return, and that does become a part of the native fund balance. And I don't receive, we don't have that information yet. I receive no information from this.
Okay, not even, I understand. They're not audited, but, oh, okay.
No, there's no refusing to give us any financial information whatsoever. Other than what we're legally entitled to ask the bank for. By virtue of the fact that I have their account. I can't get their check registered, but that is the only thing we get. They do not give us any financial information.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion regarding the transfers here?
We motion to accept the budget transfers as presented by the treasurer.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
3 seconds, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Any abstentions? Motion passes, thank you.
Now that I can close out the records and start preparing the financial statements for audit.
If you could.
That's great. The board is
Right. I think that you do have a town meeting coming up soon. Potentially, because I think we talked about that, and I know I mentioned once it was about maybe the year to look at the target change. Part of all of these transfers is that your charter specifically states that no line can be overspent, even if the department is under. So some of these additional appropriations, which declare a line item as a percentage of the department. If we were to potentially change the charter to, it's okay to line is overspent. As long as the department is still underspent, no additional transfers would be necessary. We wouldn't have to essentially continue to be bombarded by me. Saying I need this, I need this, I need this. Just something to think about next time you go to a town meeting. I'm sorry, Mark, I'm probably. Something I've seen before, but it's just something to do with the department that makes sense, right?
Charter, pretty big deals, but I don't disagree.
Right.
I mean, no. It's got about 3 things like this. Is you can use on the that's.
Yeah.
Visually, it looks easier.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have to do all these moving funds
In the department,
within a department.
right, understood, Carol, now it's a good example.
And I certainly concur with that. I mean, part of the issue with trying to get a budget as close to reality as possible is that we recognize that a significant fraction of individual line items will be over by the end of the year. Because when we put a budget together and it's long before the actual year, there are too many unknowns. You know, and I can't predict within, if you look at a lot of the transfers that we made, especially in the first batch, they were for fairly small amounts of money. But we're not necessarily gonna just bump up all the individual line items to account for that, so we don't run over except we kind of used to do. And then return $500,000 at the end of the year back to the general fund each year. So the goal is to be as close as possible, but then that does mean we are going to have an enormous number of individual transfers for line items out. So that's the rub with our current, you know.
Right, we like the budgeting process, but I like the ability to use the money within the department. If you're over in one line for like one purpose and you didn't use it, then you can use it for something, yes. Yeah. But again,
All right.
Should have money that's more of that.
All right, so I think, if we could, let's move on to the next agenda item, the approval of meeting minutes, the July.
but I want to say one quick Just about the reason I just brought that.
Oh. Thank you, Mark. That's how you think about it.
All right, so we'll look at the meeting minutes, so approval of the meeting minutes, special meeting for July 19th.
Mark, can I just ask before you do that, do you still need Cheryl? Or can you cut the finance staff?
No, I don't.
Good.
Yeah.
Anybody have any final questions? for Cheryl?
No, so try to put it. If the board wants me to say, I'll certainly say.
I just have a question. Is it possible sometime in the future to get the fund balances with our stuff so we can,
Yes.
with the library thing, have been on there if we ask for the fund balances?
Okay, so
Great
it was like,
question.
start not major special revenue funds, that can come in the general fund budget.
Oh, okay.
The thing, but if you send me an email, treasure entity, and the ones you want, I've just finished all them up, I can send them to you and let you know what I have. And then I can put you on the monthly report list, if you would like, as long as I'm getting stuff. I only get information from the library, non-major special revenue once a year. I can give you what happened last year, but that's all I can give you. I only get that information once a year. Okay, but I'm happy to provide it.
I think we're probably.
Special fund. Yeah, definitely. If you-
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you both. Have a good night.
Let's see. Good luck. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 7A, July 19, 2023 special meeting. Anybody willing to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes? Well, you could, I suppose. Motion to approve all three second meeting minutes. Different attendees.
Well, apologize, I don't think those made the packet.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're there. Yeah.
I thought my name was kind of all the meeting minutes.
Okay.
July 19th, 2023, July 25th, 2023, July 17th, 2023. All special meetings.
Okay, any discussion? We have a second?
I'm second.
Okay, let me second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yeah. I wasn't there for August 7th.
Okay,
Brian, too. You weren't there for August 7th.
Yeah, he said that I was not. That's okay. I think it's important. I mean, I want you to think about it.
If I were you are not legally obligated to not vote or to abstain because you weren't at the.
it's fine. I'm sure you want to record.
I actually did. It's nothing you can show.
Okay, so the motion passes. We had five yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. That one passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the administrative report. Eric, do you have anything to talk about so far, bring to us?
Okay, I just want to say a couple real quick things. The first is we got the $100,000 in funding from our legislative body for the Route 316 corridor study, which was fantastic. We submitted an RFP yesterday to hire a consultant to spend the money because we technically have to spend that by July 1. The goal of the study is to figure out how we can get a multi-use pathway between here and the rail trail running loosely down Route 316. And today, myself and the traffic and planning staff for the Capital Regional Council of Government walked it on the ground. The reason I did that now, prior to us getting the consultant, is that eventually we're going to go back to the Capital Regional Council of Government to fund the actual construction of the project through a program called LOT. And, so today I walked the project with all the people that evaluate the lot solicitations, when they get sent to them. Because I think it's important for them to see on the ground what the issues are. You know, so that someday when they get it in front of them on a piece of paper, they actually understand it at a visceral level. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, I would just really like to thank Linda Fish for all her years of service on the Board of Finance. This is probably your last meeting, since you're not gonna be here at your next meeting. And the November meeting, elections occur, and your replacement will be picked prior to the November meeting. So I would just like to say on my basis, that I've appreciated working with you. And I appreciate your commentary, and I wish you all the luck in the rest of your activities.
Still come and bug you?
Yeah. Yeah, so good thing we have grounds.
I know.
She brought
I
it.
made my own copies.
Do any of you have any other questions for me? Okay, lot going on, we got a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Yep. Got a lot of time coming.
Nice.
We didn't have CIP meeting this month, so.
So no liaison reports, anybody else?
No, however, at the CIP meeting before that, they did approve the purchase of the Steiner mower on Public Works.
Okay.
To replace the one with the blown motor, we do have that. We are using that currently. So that's working out really well. And it was kind of interesting, the one thing we realized is that we put our old blower on our new mower. And our old blower works much better than on the new one than the old one, which is kind of interesting. Not sure exactly why, unless the fan speed is higher or something. But it seems to work, overall works really well. The other thing we are probably gonna do is they do make kits that basically, it's got a single wheel front on each side. We're gonna go to double wheels and make the wheelbase a little, because Zach was using it, and he said it is a little unsteady mowing on, angles. So, and then the new rough cut mower is a lot wider than the old one, so the double wheel makes it. So that's pretty much all I have, unless you all have questions for me.
Okay. We'll do that. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the agenda item 10, which is board of discussion. So, Joanne, any something about the current report?
I just wanted to give an overview, and I know that there'll be more discussion and people asking questions. The way I understood it when we had a meeting and we created a capital expense report for Andover Elementary is just, we all are in favor, we all think it's a good idea that if they have unexpended money at the end of the year, they can roll it into that fund. And it can be saved for future items, capital improvements, or maybe a roof, or maybe some floors, or maybe they, yeah, things like that, what is that? Things like that, okay, so they can accumulate it, it's already gonna be earmarked for them, it's gonna be just like one of these funds, and okay, so that's done. Just like in the town where I work in a school and we want to build, we had to take some area away from the library, build a couple bathrooms, because we were running out of space. So we still have to get permits and electrical work and inspections and all that good stuff to make sure that it's being done correctly. So I think that makes perfect sense. I just don't want to overcomplicate it. I guess maybe the questions that will arise. So to me, it's pretty simple, and I'm only asking this because I know that at that meeting on October 12th, that we part of, and didn't see the whole I know that that may be on the agenda, just questions about it. And so that's simple in your mind as well. I mean, obviously, there's gonna be rules and, yeah.
That was my thought too,
Yeah.
but my understanding is that the board of selectmen got involved in this as well, and wanted, to control it, but that's something I think that what that means is what, it's an action.
Right, we will, and I think, and it always makes me sad now that I've been involved more than, years ago when I was here in the history of Burner, and now again, that really, I don't know where the whole control thing, because I think we determined at that meeting when we created it, that we're all gonna want what's best for the school.
Yeah.
Like when there was a safety issue, right away we did the bleachers, right in 1 week, it goes done. That's all. So I hope, and maybe that's just me, and maybe there's just such feelings on both sides that it can take a little while for that to go away. So I hope that, we have to follow building regulations and all of that. So we'll establish that. Can I just ask that the 2% non-lapsing fund is what they use to put extra money in?
They still
Yeah, we still have,
And
yeah.
up to 2% of the total budget. Right, okay.
But the challenge with that one is that it was up to the Board of Finance to give them permission.
To put the 2%.
So if they had unexpended funds at the end of the year, they could come to the Board of Finance, request that that be rolled into this non-lapsing account.
Okay.
And what happened is that the Board of Finance over a couple of years did not approve it. And I would say that the main reason that did not get approved is because they really didn't provide the rationale for what it would be used for. And I think honestly, if they had provided a rationale that would said, look, we're gonna need HVAC equipment in 6 months or 8 months, but we're gonna have, we expect, if there had been an effort to kind of identify what the purpose of that would have been, I think that there would have been some feeling of the Board of Finance, it would have been, fine, it would have been, something to do. That's my read, except for through the meeting minutes, but that was generally how it was. And I think at that point, then the school became a little spooked that they weren't ever gonna be able to do that, that the board was gonna turn it back to the town. So then that kind of engendered the idea that, we better spend it while we have it, they're not gonna let us keep it. And then Valerie, and then we came up with the idea, of hey, if we do have money left over, how about if we put it in the capital fund? And then that's what led to the solution, which I think is a good solution.
Absolutely.
I think the idea that the board had that guys was it was going to be kind of between our board and
Right.
Yeah, and we obviously wanted to do this so that way, but that is still up to the 2% and not,
that's something on the web. I think the idea behind this, so is it's dedicated capital.
dedicated capital, they use planning,
Right, when Val tells me about that, problem is not for
They still have to follow town policy,
Yeah.
like,
Well, that's
it's not just, okay, I'm gonna do it, I call John Doe and we're doing it next week.
and I haven't properly dealt with that.
Yeah.
And that's where our.
Is there a need to still have both? So would they rather just slide all the money into the 2,000?
yes.
Yeah, so I don't think we can.
So if I can interject here, there's advantages and disadvantages to using the 2% versus standalone capital fund. So one of the advantages of the 2% from the school's perspective is that they do control that money.
Right.
So I asked the auditor, Mike, whether that money could be spent for capital projects. And he said, yes, there's no question. So technically, it is still the town's role to do capital projects as opposed to standard repair and maintenance, which is completely on them. So the disadvantage of the 2% non-lapsing account is we can't budget to put money in every year like we do other capital funds. If we have a capital fund established for the school, it would make sense to put a nominal budget amount in every year, like we do with the other capital funds. And to me, what would make sense is make the school give you an actual capital plan, which we have never gotten, or not for many years. And so the town knows, look, here over the next 10 years are the capital expenses we think we're going to
Kind of a wish list.
entail. And therefore, our suggestion is to put X number of dollars in a capital fund for that. That capital fund is still under your control, essentially, even though you designated it for the school. You know, you still have to authorize expenditures from that. The difference between the 2% non-lapsing is they have more control over that. The downside is they can't request the town money into it. It can only come from unexpended funds and only up to 2%. And you notice this is a $122,000 project or $130,000 project. They would be capped this year and putting about $80,000 into the 2% non-lapsing account. Because it's 2% of their $4 million budget. So those are the kind of pluses and minuses. And I think it's really worth having a conversation with the Board of Ed on what money should be put where and what the parameters for spending is.
So many two good things there, if you think about it, you don't want to over budget, but if they have unexpended money at the end of the year, they can ask to put it in up to 2%, good for them. Then we can also have a capital account that we establish. And then it's up to see what we have to fund next year, we, like you said, there's
Well, we-
gonna be money for it.
Yeah, and we say on the student. Maybe you need to come up with that, I think there's other things.
I'm sure.
That's the only thing you're gonna sell it to the town.
Right, but so then, you know, I see it's like on that, and the steering committee, you have board of investigation on that committee. And you can handle it the way, the same way we handle in the town, so it's the guy without all the trouble. Or whatever, it's aging out of this lifestyle.
Well, it's nice to have people that do understand.
Right.
This
So-
is like that whole.
Addressing where things went wrong, that to me will be. I would like to be in as well. Oh, you did that? Is that?
Right, and it's not gonna be in person, it could be, it is gonna be, I think it's a very, an informal meeting, it's not gonna be a formal board decision made or anything like that.
No.
But
They are administrators and things, I'm like, it's not written in the top, I understand, but I didn't want to be, they.
But I would also suggest that you all as a board, I gave you a draft policy.
I read it, and I.
You know, that would be between you and the Board of Education that governs the use of the funds, and that provides clarity in who has the authorization to spend and what projects are covered and what money goes in the 2% fund versus the non. And that's a rough draft, you guys can do with it what you want.
Did you say that?
Yes, I think that everybody in the single.
Right.
Okay.
I was rushing myself and I'm like, June 29th. No, I was walking like, wow, that was.
Yeah, it's a while ago.
Thank you for that.
any further discussion? Any other topics to bring before the board? I guess, you know, just echoing what Eric said, thank you, Linda, for your service. I know you're not gonna be a stranger, right?
No, if they're live, I'll show up.
You have to take off.
Oh, you can't see anybody now because everybody's windshields are dark. You can't see anybody. You know, somebody sticks their head out of it. Well, dogs. Dogs 15.
Yeah.
Our next agenda item is correspondence. I actually received some correspondence. That was a request from the town clerk's office. About the 2024 meeting schedule. We
Oh.
set in our agenda, so that's the view there. And Anybody else have any correspondence? Nope. Okay, and then, no one else in the public speak. Nobody walked in, I didn't even pay, it's good. So I guess that leaves us with adjourn, 13. Anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second.
Rob second. Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? No, thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.